Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable. Forbes India and ServiceNow present the COO Collective.
Hello and welcome to our series, the COO Collective, brought to you by Forbes India in association with ServiceNow. I'm Paramita Chatterjee. Now, over the course of the series, we've been in conversation with COOs and CEOs about how they've been navigating their company's digital transformation journey. Because indeed, digital transformation is a necessity for all companies in today's day and age. And today we talk about digital transformation, especially when it comes to reimagining manufacturing operations. How can using technology really bring about dividends when it comes to companies in order for them to be agile and competitive in today's marketplace? And to discuss just that and more, we've got with us some leading lights from industry joining us on the show today. Roshan Bitera, who's Senior Manager, Solution Consulting at ServiceNow. Anjana Narwal, Head and AVP, Quality Operations, Reliability and Business Excellence, V-Guard Industries. Arun Anand, COO, Immunil Therapeutics. Anshum Jain, COO, Daimler India Commercial Vehicle. Malana Sasalu, COO, Provident Housing. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining us on this ServiceNow series that we've been conducting. Right, let me start with you, Malana, and talk about you're wearing or rather representing the housing industry. And when we talk about digital transformation, one doesn't really associate it with apartments and residences and construction per se. How would you say it's been deployed, for instance, at Provident, and what have been some of the benefits that you've seen from it?
Yeah, thank you, Paramita. One of the things that when we say real estate development, the first thing that comes into mind is the brick and mortar industry. So brick and mortar industry and digitization, how do they come together? And that's the most surprising thing that's happening in our industry, and we have embraced it quite well as Provident Housing. So let me start by saying that, in manufacturing, what do you need? You need quite a number of ingredients, right? The ingredients for us is land, and then construction material and other things that goes into housing, like doors and windows and tiles and so on and so forth. So the land itself, when you look at it, the land itself, what we used to have is the records that we had was old papers since 1990, 1920s, when the land records were made.
It was an absolute nightmare, right?
It was an absolute nightmare. So now if you look at the state governments themselves have gone into digitization of the land records. So particularly in Karnataka, you go to any corner of the state and you stand there and you open their app, boomi.com or something like that, and then you will be able to see the land records there standing on this.
So that helps you as a construction
Absolutely,
company.
It helps us a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about in terms of your own internal processes?
Internal processes is that the first thing is that when you get a piece of land, then you need to measure it. If you want to measure it, if you want to get the contours of the land, and for that you can go for the designing of the property and other things. Then before we used to send people, crew, machineries, and like the theodolite surveying machines. Today we go with the drones, and then a couple of drones will go up and start to take the digital imagery of the entire area, and which gets converted into survey drawings. And also it gets layered upon the digitized land records from the state government on it, and it comes back to us. So you're able to actually mark the streams and the whatever may be
precision has improved.
Precision has improved.
And clearly even your time to consumer coming up with the projects, because now your the time spent on even the topography and so on has come down. Would it be correct to say that?
Absolutely. Okay. The efficiency has gone up, means the production will come up.
Okay, so efficiency has been a big metric for you. Let's turn to a company with a very long legacy, and I'm talking about Daimler here. Anshum, where do you start? With a company with a legacy such as yours, where did you start with your digital transformation journey, and what would you say have been the big wins?
Yeah, so as you rightly said, Daimler is a legacy company. However, I must say, it's not that much of a legacy company in India. We're only about 10 years old in India. Pretty young workforce, and in India somehow the workforce adopts technology and digitalization much faster than the others. I must say digitalization has probably touched every single part of manufacturing operations, right from people entering the door until the truck is delivered to the customer. So for example, we have about 5,000 people who work on the shop floor. And then, there is a 10 to 12% absenteeism every day. Though we plan in terms of numbers, but it's difficult to figure out which person has to work on which station so that the quality and the downtime doesn't get impacted negatively. What happens today is the attendance records get synced in with the skill metrics, and in matter of seconds, system is able to tell us that which person needs to be deployed where. Earlier, if you go back a couple of years, this whole exercise took supervisors about half an hour to figure out. And half an hour in a company like us could be quite a bit of money.
Right, and we'll talk also about the kind of benefits you've seen on the logistics end, but clearly that's a fabulous example. I mean, just changing over the roster very quickly, I mean, that's something that we in television and broadcast could also benefit from. Now let me turn to a company which is fairly young. I mean, from a company which is 120, 130 years old to a very new company, and that's Immunil. We've got Dr. Arun Anand with us. So, Doctor, explain to us, what does Immunil do? And when we talk about manufacturing efficiencies, how are they deployed in a company with your profile?
Well, thank you very much for having me over, Paramita. So as India's first pioneering cell and gene therapy company, we are a biotech entity. We are four and a half years old. We were established in Bangalore with a very, very clear vision of bringing next-gen technologies to India in the healthcare space. We treat patients with cancer, children as well as adults with blood cancers through some of the innovative work that we do. Most of the work that we do is bespoke manufacturing. So to counter large-scale manufacturing, we actually do very, very small-scale manufacturing, but each one is bespoke to a specific patient.
So to put it simply, basically customized.
It's customized manufacturing.
Okay.
And in order to turn around, our raw material is patient's own cells. So if I'm using patient's own cells, I need to be able to know what the patient went through in their journey of having this disease, what kind of treatments they've received before. How can the cells that I'm harvesting from these patients be used to grow them, to create a product that is tailor-made for them. And when these are made with very, very exquisite new technologies, we need to follow these patients up for 15 years because we want to make sure that there's nothing that's untoward that's been introduced.
So technology is really the backbone, really.
Indeed,
isn't it, on which you rest.
Correct.
Okay, as opposed to say, let me come to you, Anjana. I mean, V-Guard, it's a very well-known brand that we're all familiar with. In that sense, you're definitely not a digital native. How did you go about really identifying your priorities?
See, V-Guard now, it's like 46 years old company. So if I really talk about the numbers, we have got around 10, 11 kind of manufacturing facilities pan-India, and there's a couple of more coming up in another 1 year's time. So it's going to be making another 1 year, if I say, it's going to be around 15, 16 manufacturing location. So keeping that in mind, and it's like a multi-product category company. It's not one product we are dealing with. So it's a very diverse kind of a portfolio, what we have it. Whether you talk about electronics, and all of a sudden it goes into the wires and cables, and then comes down to, I would say, home appliances, solar. So it's a very diverse portfolio V-Guard is having it. Now, looking this complexity, what we have it. So if I talk about almost 7-8 years back, the proportion of manufacturing versus the traded was totally, I would say, 30% or 40% was manufacturing, and maximum was my OEM based manufacturing. But after this particular competitive world, now actually V-Guard has come to hardcore manufacturing, and that actually requires a demand for digitizing. And
integrating
integrating all the manufacturing locations so that the management at the top gets a visibility, and that how my manufacturing locations, and with a complex supply chain. That's a very huge, because if I really talk about numbers right now, we have around 350 plus kind of a raw material vendors to handle, and around 160 plus OEMs. Which we exclusive, like I would say, V-Guard OEMs.
Okay. So clearly huge complexities of operations. I think there's complexities across the board. All of them at different stages and benefits of their digitization journey. Roshan, you're representing ServiceNow, and essentially you help in companies building workflows. I mean, how would that help, for instance, some of the companies that we've heard from today, especially when we hear words like integration, efficiencies, take it forward from there?
So ServiceNow has been in this industry because, when the prerogative for every organization is about digital transformation, right? But how do you enable that? And for that, you would need something like ServiceNow. If you want to automate some of your workflows, if you want to integrate a lot of other systems within your ecosystem, and if you also want to bring in visibility into what you have and also what you're offering to your customer.
This whole thing about artificial intelligence helping us or really doing away with or automating some of those key decisions one needs to make in some of these investments.
Yeah, so I have two views on that. The final verdict is still out. So one is, of course, ChatGPT is scary. I mean, the kind of things it is able to do, we wouldn't imagine that. On the other side, you still have to roll up your sleeves, get to the shop floor and make a truck or a bus, right? ChatGPT cannot do that for you. So from that perspective, we still have a job security to some extent. Now, talking about decision making, one thing I will completely agree with you. When I look at operations, I think a huge portion of decisions which we take actually are database decisions, which means if they are database decisions, somebody else should be able to take them for you, or at least should be able to propose a decision for you. I'll give you an example. In production setting, we talk about production plan, like which model, how many quantity you're going to make today. Now, what does that depend on? That depends on three things. That depends on what does your customer want, what kind of material your suppliers are able to supply, and what people do you have in the plant today, and maybe fourth, your equipment availability. Now, instead of we trying to figure it out in a meeting or in an Excel sheet, in my opinion, artificial intelligence tools should be able to integrate this data and propose a production plan for you, which probably is better than all of us put together, sitting down for 1 hour and coming up with. So such things, in my opinion, are very, very handy.
Fantastic example. Malana, some examples from the real estate space when it comes to where you've successfully implemented automation and even AI when it comes to some of your decision making and the processes you've deployed?
Yeah, so we have now engaged a small company to put together a system for us. We almost do around 5,000 calls every day, people inquiring for apartment units. Where are they really looking for? What are their priorities or requirements and things like that? It's humanly not possible for us to sift through, listen through those voices of people and to come back and say, this is what people want. So an AI engine which can actually look at and decipher the information what we need would be fantastic. Automation, yes, in precast construction, where what used to be done at the site when we've gone to the kind of industrial model of doing things, there now we are able to feed the machine to say that this is the number of pieces and these are the panels that we need, and most of the things are done automatically. So that's where we are going towards. And
the proof of the pudding, Dr. Anand, would you say in your case, actually in everybody's case, is ultimately whether or not the customer is happier than he was before, right? Some wins for you in the recent past?
I think it's still early days for us because we're still a young company that way. We've had quite a few wins when we see our patients not having disease in 28 days based on the work that we have done. Most of it is tailored work for the specific patient in hand. Automation, we have definitely invested in automated technologies. The entire healthcare space is still a little bit behind the traditional FMCG, e-commerce, manufacturing kind of spaces for automation, because a lot of the data is still made available late. Data is still collated across multiple systems. Physicians don't necessarily understand the entire thing as technologists typically do. So there is a degree of learning that still the industry has to go through, whether both healthcare as well as the medical industry. I don't think ChatGPT will make a big difference today in patient care, although it's possible in a few years from now that they will understand from algorithms, they will understand from traditional pathways, say, hey, don't do this to this patient, do something else to this patient.
But ultimately you want a lot of that, and Anjana, I'm sure it resonates with you with all your multiple manufacturing centers and teams and product SKUs, that you want some of those basic decision-making, database decision-makings to really been taken off out of the meeting rooms.
Yes,
is
absolutely.
that happening with you?
Absolutely. So yes, so that's something which is purely I think VGuard is facing currently. So, but as I agree with my other panelist, so actually this artificial intelligence or the automation is helping us to give some kind of I would say, helping us to take a decision. So it's actually supporting on that front. But ultimately decision lies with you. So you have to make a call. So it's actually helping you with that particular front in a proper analytical way. So that's something which is right now for VGuard is still, I think, not up to that mark level. We are still struggling on that particular path. Yes, but we have done a lot of progress in the past few, I would say, a decade's time. So that's something which we have done it. So we are also working with some agencies, experts to help us out with this particular platform so that we'll have one complete solution for entire visibility.
And that's what I think most companies are aspiring for. Let's reduce the complexity, yet give us that kind of returns that we are looking for. Roshan, coming from here, most of the companies we've been speaking to in the series are at this inflection point. And especially with the economic headwinds being what they are, everybody is looking more closely at the kind of future investment. So what does the future hold, especially when it comes to really driving some of those operational efficiencies that is required on the manufacturing side?
Yeah, traditionally ServiceNow has been focusing on IT. But we have very soon we are in the last 2 years we've been transforming into more verticalization in the industries. So BFSI, manufacturing, and healthcare. So these are some of the solutions that we are bringing out in the market to cater to those specific needs. So that's where we see a lot of growth. As well as we see more and more customers adopting in these industries, because it's more fine-tuned for them. The data model that comes with ServiceNow is related to them, and hence they're able to adopt it much faster.
So, and that's something, a lot of localization, right, that you're doing for India, because as we all know, India is always a unique market. That's what we hear about all the time. What works, overseas may not work here in India. Malana, I mean, for you, in terms of your priorities, when it comes to your transformation journey from here on?
Embrace the technology, particularly while the customer relationship management is one of the key things for us. As real estate industry, we have not done really well in the past 20-30 years, listening to people. Now there is an opportunity for us to listen to people, and I think by enabling technology to listen to that, or to collect the data of what people are trying to communicate to us, and decipher that information, understand it, and serve them better, and that is where I would think is.
So basically technology is going to help bring you closer to the customer and really respond much faster.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anjana, what about you?
So I think somewhere, yes, because ultimately it's like customer experience and customer delight what we are actually aiming for. So yes, I think this is something which I also totally agree that it's helping us with not only with the customer's perspective, but yes, also with respect to cost competitive. That is also biggest challenge what we are facing in the, I would say, the competitive market. The productivity, skills is a very big area, which a gap area, which is helping on this particular front, because skills on the particular processes which was earlier manual, now that has been taken by the automation. So that is also helping with the transformation, and specifically the critical areas, which is a very critical to quality.
That's a great point. I mean, I think that applies to all the companies here in terms of reskilling and really reorienting employees and improving the employee experience. Dr. Anand, your priority areas in the light of digital transformation?
I think Immunil is trying to do something which is transformative to patients' lives. And I think the only way we can get better, faster, cheaper, more efficient, more transformative is by embracing digital much more than we have before. Yes, we don't have the problems of legacy per se, but we do have the problems of integration. That's something that we are trying to solve. And I think in the next 18-24 months, my focus as the leader of this business is to focus on bringing the first digital interface for cell and gene therapies in this part of the world.
Wow, and more power to you, and more power to your patients to really recover against, this dreaded disease. Final word to you, Anshum. Given the, your company's history, and given the fact that you've really been cutting it close to the bone when it comes to, digital transformation, where do you see Daimler's business really going from here in terms of its priorities?
Yeah, I would say two things. One is internal, other is external. I would say so far we have been focused more or less, maybe 90-95% on internal efficiency improvements. And it only goes so far. I think now we need to focus external with our customers and suppliers, because moment people realize that some of the stuff which we are doing internally with digital transformation can help our customers and as a result improve our business and market share, I think there's nothing stopping it. So I would say that would be our number one priority.
Great. I think we've heard from all the companies, and thank you so much for your honesty and really frankness in terms of some of your transformation wins as well as the challenges. And we wish you all the very best. Thank you, Roshan, for your insights. Clearly, technology is something we can't do without. It is going to be there in some way or form, and companies are learning to use it in the most effective manner possible so that you and I, as customers, can reap the benefits, and companies can also do so down the chain. That brings us to the end of this special ServiceNow series, the COO Collective, brought to you by Forbes India in association with ServiceNow. Thank you so much for watching.
Forbes India and ServiceNow present the COO Collective.
Focus, ideate, innovate, enable.